I have never watched Naruto before, and honestly, I always thought it was overhyped. All I really knew were the memes, the edits, and that one scene where Rock Lee drops his weights.
Pounds of weight?
But that's about it. I've watched a lot of other animes like One Piece and Attack on Titan, so it's not like I'm new to this, but Naruto just never grabbed my attention. So I finally decided to sit down and watch it for the first time, and yeah, I wasn't expecting this. So going into Naruto, my first reaction was honestly, this kid is so annoying. Like yeah, he's funny at times, but he's also loud, constantly seeking attention, and just doing way too much for no reason. At first, it actually put me off a bit, because compared to other main characters, he just felt immature and kind of hard to take seriously. But the more I watched, the more that started to make sense. Naruto isn't just acting out for no reason. He's doing it because he's completely alone. No parents, no real support system, and nobody in the village really acknowledged him. So all that loud, annoying behavior is basically him trying to be seen. And then very early on, we found out that Naruto has the 9-tailed fox sealed inside him. I genuinely didn't expect them to reveal something that big straight away. I thought I was going to be some major twist much later in the story. So when they just tell you that from the start, it immediately made me realize that this show isn't going to drag things out for no reason. It gives you a reason to stay interested early on, because now you know there's something much bigger going on within him. The first moment that actually stood out to me emotionally was with Iruka. Up until that point, Naruto mostly felt like a comic relief, but when Iruka acknowledges him, protects him, and shows that he actually cares, that's when things start to change. That moment made Naruto feel more human. It's the first time you really understand why he acts the way he does, and it gives you a reason to actually root for him instead of just seeing him as an annoying character. Then we get introduced to Kakashi, and straight away you can tell he's on a completely different level. The belt test at first just seems unfair. Like realistically, there was no way they were going to beat him. But obviously, that wasn't the point of the test. It was about teamwork, and the fact that Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura all approached it individually shows us how unprepared they were. Once they start working together, you can see the direction the show is trying to go in, and how these characters are going to develop as a team. The point where the show really started to get serious for me was the Land of Waves arc. Zabja and Haku completely changed the tone. Up until then, things were fairly light, but this arc introduced real danger and actual emotional weight. This is also when Naruto started showing glimpses of what he's actually capable of, especially when the Nine Tails power begins to come out. Before this, he felt like he was the weakest character by far, but in these moments you can tell there's something much bigger being built up, even if he doesn't fully understand it yet. At the same time though, I'm not going to pretend everything was perfect. For most of season 1, Naruto still feels like the weakest out of the main group. Compared to Sasuke especially, the gap is very noticeable. I understand that it's part of his growth and that it's intentional, but at the first time watcher it doesn't stand out quite a bit. It feels like he has a lot of potential, but he hasn't really caught up to it yet. Towards the end of season 1, we get introduced to the Sand Village, and especially Gaara. Straight away you can tell there's something different about him. He feels very unstable, unpredictable, and a lot more dangerous than anyone we've seen so far. The interesting part is that we don't actually get much backstory yet, which makes him even more interesting. It leaves you with questions about who he is, what his past is like, and why he acts the way he does. That's something I definitely wanted more of going into the next season. The Chunin exam feels like the point where the story is really about to expand, because now we've been introduced to multiple teams, different villages, and a wider range of characters. It sets up a bigger stage, and it feels like this is where things are going to become more competitive and more intense. As for my favorite characters so far, Sasuke is definitely up there. He just stands out immediately. He's calm, confident, and clearly stronger than most of the people around him, without needing to prove it all the time. Kakashi's another one I like straight away. I was watching the show with my friend and he called him the Gojo of Naruto. He has that balance of being laid back and funny, while also clearly being very powerful and experienced. And Naruto himself did grow on me. At the start I found him annoying, but over time, understanding his background and seeing small amounts of growth made me more invested in his character. Season 2 is where things starts getting a lot more intense. As soon as the Chunin exam moves on to the Forest of Death, the tone completely changes. It's no longer just about teamwork or small missions, this actually feels dangerous. And then we get introduced to Orochimaru. At first, you don't really know who he is, he just shows up, this really unsettling, snake-like character. You can immediately tell he's on a completely different level compared to everyone else. Up to this point, most of the characters felt somewhat grounded in terms of power, but Orochimaru doesn't feel like he belongs in the same exam at all. That's when it hits. You're not just watching a test anymore. There's something much bigger going on in the background. One of the biggest moments in this arc is when Sasuke gets marked by Orochimaru. At the time, I didn't fully understand what it was, but you can tell straight away that it's not a good thing. It gives him power, but it also feels dangerous, like it's changing him. And that ties directly into Sasuke's character, because by this point, it's very clear that all he cares about is getting stronger. He's not chasing recognition like Naruto. he's chasing power, no matter what it costs. So seeing him actually accept that kind of power, even if it's risky, makes his characters a lot more interesting. Midway through the season, we finally start getting proper fights during the exams. This is where you really see the gap between the characters. Sasuke starts showing how strong he actually is, especially after recovering from the mark. And compared to Naruto, the difference is still pretty clear. Naruto has moments where he shows potential, especially when the Nine Tails power starts coming out, but outside of that, he's still struggling to keep up. It kind of reinforces the idea that Naruto has potential, but he hasn't learned how to control it yet. Another thing that caught me off guard was Kabuto. At first, he just seemed like this calm, helpful guy who knows a lot about the exam. He's collecting information, helping others. It almost feels like he's just experienced. Then we find out he's actually working with Orochimaru. That completely changes how you look at him, and it adds another layer to what's going on behind the scenes. It makes the whole exam feel less like a fair competition and more like something being manipulated from the inside. One thing I actually liked a lot was how the Chunin exams are structured. It's not just about who's the strongest. It tests different things. The written exam tests intelligence and decision making. The force tests survival and endurance, and the fight tests actual combat ability. Even the idea for the final test where you can pass without winning your fights is interesting, because it shows that being a ninja isn't just about being someone, it's about the overall ability. That made the whole system feel a lot more realistic. As the exams go on, Gaara starts becoming more and more important. You can already tell he's one of the strongest people there, but at the same time he feels unstable. There's something off about him, similar to Naruto, but way more extreme. And again, this is where the show does a good job of building curiosity, because you still don't fully understand his backstory or what made him that way. By the end of season 2, instead of everything being wrapped up, it actually leaves you with more questions. What exactly did Orochimaru do to Naruto when he interfered with his seal? What's going to happen with Sasuke and that curse mark? Who is that guy with the frog that suddenly appears during Naruto's training? And most importantly, how are these final fights going to play out? Naruto against Neji and Sasuke against Gaara. At this point, it feels like everything is building up to something much bigger. Alright, so that was Naruto season 1 and 2, and my thoughts and opinions on like how I see it. I have watched One Piece before and Bleach, so 2 of the big 3, but I've never had an interest in Naruto before. I never watched anything to do with it, never seen any spoilers, so I don't know anything about the storyline or what's gonna happen in the future. So I'm started watching season 3 in preparation of the next video, and I don't know when that will be out, but as soon as I have it watched and edited and made the video, my script and everything, I will upload it. But you can keep up with my thoughts and opinions on the show on Twitter, which I'll have linked below and also in my bio or my YouTube description. But yeah, so if you made it to the end, I really appreciate it. This is my first video with a script fully edited by me. Nothing crazy in editing, but you know, it's my first time trying to put something out. But yeah, thank you again for everyone watching, and have a good day.